Welcome back to the shop, guys. You're not seeing double. There is, in fact, a second C5 Corvette in the garage today. A friend of mine owns this 2002 Z06, and he's reached out to me for some help in identifying the many issues that it has, prioritizing which ones need to be fixed now, and which can wait till later. I've got a feeling that this is going to be quite the list because this Z06 has 180,000 miles on it, and the previous owner was not so prompt at fixing issues as they broke through the years. So we've got some serious investigating to do to see what issues we can uncover, and then of course we'll do a test drive to see if we can reveal any additional issues. We'll do all that and a whole lot more next.
Toys for Life.
Guys, before we get started with the inspection, I got a question for you. I thought my rims were plenty big. I'm not a huge rim guy typically, but looking at these side by side, these 20s look a lot bigger than these 17s. So I'm curious, what do you guys think? Are 20s the way to go, 17s, or maybe a 17 or a 19? If you've got a strong opinion on the matter, leave it in the comments below. Okay, the first thing I want to do, I've got the Z06 outside where I can open everything up, and it's been sitting for multiple hours, so the engine block is cold, and that's important because I'm going to do a test on this 180,000 mile engine that's as important as any, in my opinion. So let's pop the hood and get started. And it won't stay up. Neither side is providing any resistance, best I can tell. So that's going to get old quick. So I gotta get two new struts for the hood support. So we'll have to find a stick or something here. Hold on just a second. All right, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to check the oil just to make sure that it's topped off and it doesn't look unusual. Next thing I'm going to do, I just want to make sure that the brake fluid's fine, which it is. And the clutch fluid I can't really see, so to be positive, I'm just going to pop this open. And that actually looks super clean. Much cleaner than I would have expected. Next thing I want to do, engine block is cold. So a nice cold start. A lot of these LSs will knock. Even mine knocks a little bit the first minute or so of operation. So with 180,000 miles, I want to start it up, a cold start, and just see what it sounds like. That chirping noise and the LS's propensity to eat harmonic balancers, we've got to take a look. You tell me. That's obvious. That harmonic balancer is shot. We're going to need to put a new one on. That's a pretty high priority item because if that fails, it can take out the front timing cover. It can start eating into the rack and pinion. So that's a big issue. One thing I noticed right away is this whole plastic cowling cover is destroyed. I don't think this is the highest in demand item on C5s. I think you could probably pick up a used one pretty cheap. So if you've got one, let me know. This Z06 exhaust, nice and light, a little less restrictive than the stock C5 exhaust, and I like the outlets a lot better too. But I came back here because you can tell a lot by listening to exhaust if there's a miss or anything like that. And as best I can tell, that seems to be a properly running engine as far as I'm concerned. Guys, just sitting in the inside here real quick. A couple quick things I noticed. Not a huge deal, we got a crack right here. We've got no engine lights. We've got good oil pressure at idle, that's important. Although it is a cold engine, we're not up to operating temperature yet. And of course, we've got the infamous HVAC LED is not working, and actually the screen is cracked. I'm not sure what we can do with that. Get the LEDs working for sure by resoldering them. There's a video on my channel how to do that actually, but this is different when the screen is cracked. I did notice too, this is broken, so the latch doesn't work. This is probably something you could get used as well. Another thing I just noticed, actually, when I backed it out of the garage and looked at this, He's got an MGW shifter in here. It's the first C5 I've driven that has one. And man, that is interesting. That's super tight, 100% different than stock. I can't really tell you. It's definitely much more precise. It's much more firm. I'm gonna have to take this thing for a pretty good test drive to see what I think of that MGW shifter. Everybody seems to love them, and right now I'm just saying it's a lot different. And anytime you get into a car with a different shifter, you've got to get used to it before you can form an opinion. Oh, and by the way, I just found a major problem. This roof, and it just seems to be stuck, and no matter what I try, I don't seem to be able to get the roof off like you can in the C5 coupe. Sorry guys, just a little C5 coupe humor there. So let's look inside the other thing that makes the Z06 visually different than the coupe, and that of course is the rear end. Hopefully these struts hold up the deck lid, and they don't. They will hold it at the very top, but I wouldn't want to put my head in there because it's going to be like a guillotine. Hopefully this is dry back here, and it is. Needs a good vacuuming. It's dry, so we're going to leave it alone. That's the difference in storage area. The coupe's a lot more practical, but for the Z06 lovers, they will tell you that this is the body style to get. Another thing I noticed, we've just had a heck of a rainy spell, and this side over here is a little bit damp, but worse than that, this is wet, and it's even more so behind the seat. Getting ready to pop these seats out, the switch is gone for the power seats. The seat's got a hole here, and it's got a bulge in the back. I think something's cracked inside there. I'm not sure what's going on with the seat, but he's already said that the seats are junk and he wants to get new ones. And so I'm not sure what's going on with the seat, but one thing's clear. It's seen better days. Oh, I don't know, Mr. Owner. I might have to get hazard pay for this. Just an old cloth. I'm going to see if I can't absorb as much of that moisture in the back as possible. Alright, so we've got the seat out of it still. Back in the shop, it's going to sit this way overnight with a fan on it, and that should dry it up nicely. And I got to remove one of these hood struts so I can measure its extended and collapsed length, because I got to get that fixed before I do the harmonic balancer, because that's going to drive me nuts. There's just a clip on each end that you have to pop off. Be careful not to lose it, and then the strut will come off. Collapsed length is about 10.5 inches. Extended length is about 14.5 inches. Just got back from Napa. Here are the new struts for the hood. I want to get that done because it's going to be annoying without it. Here's the part numbers if you're interested. Here's the strut. I compressed one of them just for the heck of it. Holy cow, it takes a lot of pressure. So let's get these tossed on. It's a beautiful thing. All right, let's crawl underneath and see what's going on. First thing I like to look at is the front of this condenser. I've seen worse, but that could use a little cleaning. Looks like we're missing the spring in one of the little cables on this side, on the driver's side. That should be fixed. I've got kind of oil everywhere underneath here, and it seems to be working its way from the front towards the back. It's pretty clean, relatively speaking, by where the rear main seal would be. The owner mentioned that the power steering cooler had been recently changed. That looks pretty clean, but we do have the fluid almost seems to be coming, if you can see that up in there, from the power steering rack. So that's a little suspect. Let's work our way towards the back. One thing that's kind of cool on these Z06s of 2002, you've got the main cats back here, but they got rid of the pup cats, which freed up somewhere, I don't know, between 5 and 10 horsepower. So this is a desirable exhaust. This is what I'm concerned about. This is just from sitting a night. And where that lines up on the car is between the transmission and the differential. Clearly that's Dextron 3 leaking from the rear seal of the transmission. We'll have to pull the fill plug, and which on this one is a temperature sensor, I believe, and see how low that is, because if you run that thing low, you're going to take out a really nice transmission. So we'll check that in a few minutes. All C5s tend to have leaky butt. To some degree, this one doesn't look excessive, but we'll pop out the rear plug as well and take a peek and see how the rear diff fluid is. Other than that, I don't really see anything that looks too terrible underneath here. A couple of these joints could be replaced. But overall, pretty decent condition with just a couple of pesky leaks to deal with. Go ahead and disconnect this sensor and remove the temperature sensor. Here's a little tool I use. Put it down through the top of the hole and then see if anything's in there. And it actually, you can see, there's actually a little drop of fluid on there. We'll top it off with a little Dexmerk, which is what I use. And you don't have to tighten that extremely tight or anything. And that's topped off. This one just takes a hex bit to get it out. This may well start to just leak out, and if that's the case, it's full, and I'm going to put it right back in, because generally this is a lot thicker and it doesn't always leak out so quickly, and it's coming out already. So that's good. And again, it doesn't have to be incredibly tight. So I'm back underneath the Z06. I let this sit all night long. That was nice and clean last night, and in just 10 hours, it's leaking again. So I'm not sure how much it would leak driving down the road, most likely more, but this seal is going to need to be replaced. The next thing is, and this is my least favorite thing on something like a Corvette, because things are so tight, it can be difficult to figure out where all this oil is coming from. If it's power steering fluid, front seal, I'm pretty sure it has nothing to do with the rear seal, so that's a good thing. But I'm going to do my best here. I'm going to clean it up, and I'm going to let it run for about 15 minutes on the lift and see if I can find traces of new leakage. So that's the game plan. Now it's time for the waiting game. We're just going to start it up and let it run for about 20 minutes and see what kind of leaks we can find. That is just fantastically wobbly. But on a positive note, for 180,000 miles, if in fact that's what's on this particular block, maybe it was replaced at some point, that's extremely quiet. It kind of sounds like a well-maintained sewing machine. Both fans have come on, which is always good to know that your cooling system is working properly. And that makes it kind of hot under here. All right, it has been 25 minutes And there are no new fresh drops of oil on the ground. And nothing underneath here. I've actually been poking around the last 10 minutes. I don't see anything underneath here that looks fresh. Actually, I take that back. There's a fresh drop right there. This is right behind the harmonic balancer. That thing is Wobble City, and if you can see in there, it looks pretty wet behind the balancer, which is where that timing cover seal is. I bet it's leaking out of there. So guys, with as screwed up as the harmonic balancer is on this Z06, we're gonna have to postpone that test drive, but I've talked to the owner, I've got the parts on order, and the next video will be a harmonic balancer removal and replacement. If you got anything out of this video, I'd appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button below. And as always, thanks for watching.